Welcome to the world of HP2GI, and thanks for taking the time to get a little sample of our work. In this short video, we're going to show you one of the foundations that all of our programs stand on and that shapes everything we do. It's all about learning and how it really works. We get it. Life can frequently be crazy, chaotic, and frustrating. There's often way too much to do, too many choices, not enough time, and not enough resources. You spend your life in a constant state of being busy, and if you aren't careful, you can easily slide from busy into overwhelmed, and nothing good ever comes from that. Part of the problem is that we have created a modern world that our bodies were never designed to live in. Today, we get more stress and stimulation to our systems in a week than we did in a year a few hundred years ago. Technology has erased the barriers of time and distance, and thus we are now connected and available to the world 24/7. That's great on the one hand, and often a nightmare on the other. People have developed addictions to technologies that didn't even exist 20 years ago, and our collective attention span is getting shorter and shorter. Nothing new so far, you say? I'm sure that's true, but we need to set the stage for this. At some moment, you've had this experience. You were exhausted or frustrated with the endless demands on your time and energy, and you found yourself saying, "Is this all there is? Is this what my life is going to be like for the next 20, 30, 40 years? An endless to-do list of tasks that I complete mostly for other people? Tasks that don't leave me with much sense of satisfaction or fulfillment? How do I change my life so that it's more satisfying? How do I get a sense of purpose and meaning and get out of this endless swirl?" The short answer is you need to learn. Learn new ways of being in the world and new competencies for building a life that you design. That sounds great, you say, but how do I do that? Funny you should ask. Here is a fundamental breakdown in our society, and in our view, one that is at the root of many of our ills. We don't really understand the phenomenon of learning. The problem is that we have three very different interpretations of learning, and two of them are not of much use to you as you're watching this video. To keep things simple, hang on to this. For the sake of all that we are going to do together, you can see change and learn as synonyms. You can't change if you don't learn, and you can't learn if you don't change. If you want to change your life, you have to learn. At HP2GI, we got our start working with athletes and soldiers, people who are under constant pressure to perform and who operate in a world where their results are very visible. For the sake of simplicity, we will take some examples of the three views on learning from that world. The first view is that learning is seen as becoming aware of. I was watching TV the other night and I saw Serena Williams hit the amazing new type of tennis shot. I didn't know anyone could do that. In this instance, you were very impressed and would tell your friends that you learned about a new type of tennis shot. Prior to seeing it on TV, you didn't know it existed, and now you are aware that it does exist. You have learned. The second view is that learning means to understand. I watched Tiger Woods make this amazing chip shot, and I wanted to learn how he did it, so I bought his book and read the chapter on chipping. Now you have gone one step further. You became aware of Tiger's chipping prowess by seeing him on TV, and then you took the next step, which was to go beyond awareness and into understanding. You read the entire chapter on making chip shots, and will now tell the world that you learned Tiger Woods' technique for making chip shots. Now, in both cases, you can say you learned, but in neither case can you say you have changed. You have no capacity to do anything better, new, or different. This brings us to the third view of learning, the HP2GI view, which is that learning must be seen as the development of new competence, a new capacity for action. The reason most programs don't work is that they settle for providing awareness, understanding, and motivation, none of which enable you to do anything different, better, or new. Our work is all about producing embodied competence. Embodied means you can take the new action without having to stop, think about it, or look it up in some book. It is part of your expanded set of actions that you have available for moving in and dealing with the world. Competence is simply the capacity to consistently produce the desired result. Here is the most important part to all of this. No amount of awareness, understanding, or motivation will produce competence. There is only one way to build competence, and that is through practice. Period. Here is a simple example that we can all relate to. Driving. How did you get your driver's license? Did the state say to you, read this driver's manual and then take the test so we know you understand how to drive and you will get a license? No, they did not. Did they say, go to this motivational session by Jeff Gordon or Emerson Fittipaldi and get motivated to drive and we'll give you a license? No. Did they say, do these driving affirmations every day and visualize yourself driving and we'll give you a license? No. If you wanted to get a license, you had to get in a car and practice some more until you had developed a minimal competence at driving. Then you took the driver's exam, which had two parts. You took the written test, which let them know you understand the rules of the road, and then you took the driving test, which let them know you were competent behind the wheel. Now, look at what has occurred since then. In the early days when you drove, both hands were on the wheel. You were sore from constantly checking the mirrors, and you didn't want anyone to talk to you lest they distract you from driving. Today, you can get in the car, fire it up, head down the street, and the next thing you know, you're at work, or the store, or whatever your destination was. Sometimes, you're even surprised that you arrived, as you were not really concentrating on your driving. Why? Because after years of practice, you have deeply embodied the competence of driving. You no longer need to think about it or refer to any manuals. The same thing is true when it comes to making changes in your life. You can read all the books you want to, listen to the tapes, and you will become aware of new ways of being or even understand them, but that won't enable you to do or become any of these things. And that is why most people either give up on ever changing themselves or get cynical about the process. It's not that you can't learn and change, it's simply that you've been stuck in a limited view of how to do it. The good news is that anyone can learn to lead a new and different life. You can have a life of satisfaction, dignity, and meaning. The rest of the news is that it won't come from books, but from building new practices. New practices for seeing the world, engaging with other people, designing your future, and taking effective action. All of these new practices are available to anyone who takes our programs, and it is precisely these new practices that we teach. We don't traffic in tips and techniques, checklists, or motivation. Our work is all about enabling you to develop new embodied competencies. You learn them first by understanding, but we then quickly move into doing them. Thus, the real work of changing your life happens not in the weekend session, but in the weeks that follow as you put the new practices to work in your life. In the Foundation program, you will be shown the map for what we call authentic learning and how it unfolds in your life. You come face to face with what we call the enemies of learning, and we will show you how to fend them off. You will come away with a new set of practices for learning that you can use to learn anything you choose, not just the content of a program. Our goal is to enable you to have everything you want in life, and learning the practices of authentic learning is the means by which you will do that. We invite you to join the thousands of others who have charted their own course for a new future.